Previously in the anime, Rick discovered that one of the grand magic orbs they are looking for is engraved into the belt of the King of Fist champion, and he refused to hand it over to them. As Kerwin told them to win this belt fair and square by defeating him in the tournament, so Brufston went to enter the tournament from Easter Block while Rick chose to get from Western Block. But right in the preliminary his opponent turns out to be Angelica. She knew she was screwed if Rick gets serious, so she surrendered almost immediately. After that, Rick took her to a restaurant to cheer her up, and Angelica found out Rick was planning to enter the tournament. So she told him it's going to be impossible because he needs 40 preliminary wins to be eligible, and the tournament is only 1 week away, if that's the case. Rick got set to complete the quota and defeated his next opponent in the match almost too easily, and from then on, the preliminary continues, and this time Angelica was on the fight. She beat her opponent neat and clear, and with this she officially won her 40 bouts to take part in the tournament. Rick was fired up as well to get his 40 bout. But a person can fight one fight in one venue, and then they have to fight in another venue on another location, but there's still time left and Rick plans to leave immediately. Angelica thought he was going by super fast carriage, but Rick didn't have time for a carriage ride and left. That's just absurd, yet Angelica was interested in watching Rick's fight. So Rionette fulfilled her wish by talking her through a shortcut, but until then she saw heavens multiple times. Although Rick won his match in one hit, and then he left again. Rionette also took Angelica to every fight just like this, and Angelica wasn't sure she'd make it out alive, but she did, and just in 4 days Rick won all 40 bouts. And now that Rick is in the league her winning chances have fallen, but to add more, Rionette told her Brufston is also participating and he's an S-rank adventurer. That just derailed her morale even more, but getting back to the topic, Rick was nowhere to be seen because he went jogging to Tronia town, which is 300 kilometers away. Which means 600 kilometers is only jogging for Rick, but the way Rionette stays with Rick, someone might mistake them for a couple, and Rionette has no problem with it because she also likes Rick. Then suddenly a guy came to them and requested for their help with pretty please, and then at noon Rick came back from his jogging and a lizard man met him on time outside. His name was Snape, chairman of the committee from the Western League. It came as a surprise that he knew Rick, but recently Rick has become one of the fastest to qualify for the tournament. But Snape was not here for him, he's here to look for Angelica. Apparently he's a merchant and has ties with the Damon family, but Rick noticed from the handshake earlier that Snape was a fighter. So he opened up that he retired at the age of 23 after winning his first and last tournament. But Snape stopped there and told Rick that his company is also sending a person into this tournament and asked Rick to tell Angelica to take it easy and look after herself. There, Militia saw this and told Rick to be cautious around Snape because there are rumors that Snape has connections to the underworld, and recently his company is sponsoring the tournament, and as a result he got a sponsor slot to send in his own fighter. But there's some guys were talking about new bunny girls they saw, and one of whom was a dark elf. And there's only one dark elf Rick knew, and that's Rionette. Well, Angelica and Rionette were helping that guy out to gather customers. And surprisingly Angelica was so into it and pretends she's not. Rionette planned to reject the guy but accepted to help only because Angelica agreed. Otherwise she wouldn't have helped even if he begged to death. Then their goon started to mess around with a girl and hits on Angelica, but she was so flat that he couldn't reach her. So he paid the price for being a pervert. Then Rick arrived and saw the new scene, but he got so hooked on Rionette that he couldn't utter a simple word. After that, the old man saw in the news that Rick and Brufston both cleared the preliminary to become the fastest to qualify for the tournament. And that takes us back to the time when old man went to the slums and found Kerwin there. At the time, Kerwin thought the old man was after him. But actually he came here to recruit Kerwin for the tournament and promised he'll be respected in Heractopia. And that's how both became partners. Then the next day, Angelica was pissed Rick saw her in a bunny outfit and ignored her like a thin air. But there Rick told her about his meeting with Snape and Angelica said she doesn't know him. So after that, the tournament qualifiers starts with a big lady announcing the start of their first fight between Angelica and her opponent. Both were ladies and the bare hand fight ended in Angelica's victory. After that comes Rick's turn and he won easily too. Then the matches goes on with both winning against their opponent. And now Angelica has only 4 matches left to enter the official tournament. But the next fight becomes a bit challenging for Angelica. She did her best with her water thunder combo attack, but it didn't work on the guy. After which she got slow and Blitz took the chance to secure his victory against Angelica. Rick saw Angelica's mistake, so after she was patched up, Rick met her and asked why she was being hasty using attacks that drains her powers, but Angelica stormed off without saying anything, so Rick kept following her to convince her to spit it out. It got annoying and Angelica finally agreed to talk. She opens up that Snape he met the other day as her fiancé. He came to help her die Armut family when they were in a pinch when her parents died. They were into loads of debts. And at that time their money-hungry grandpa came in and made a deal with Snape. Snape was aiming for a contact into nobility and promised his help in return for Angelica's hand in marriage. But Rick was surprised she liked a lizard to get married, meaning he didn't understood what Angelica just explained. So after that, Angelica reveals she was digging into Snape to cancel the engagement and found out about this tournament and his sponsorship. But suddenly they saw a ruckus in the bar and saw Blitz was confronting a lizard who has a lady in his hand. But the lizard beat Blitz up like he was a kid. That lady just spilled some beer on him and now he's angry and wants compensation for it. So Angelica came out to stop him even though she knew she was at a disadvantage. That's why Rick stepped in. And before things escalated, Snape arrived and told Geeth to back off. Snape promised to compensate the owner and explained that Geeth is his younger brother with an anger problem. And sadly he couldn't do anything because no one is strong enough to stop Geeth. Then he asked Angelica if she's injured because she's precious to him. She was alright, so Snape left. But Rick couldn't understand the connection between tournament and engagement, so Angelica explains that all the money they get from the tournament has been put into their engagement to happen. So the match-fixing chances are high, and that's why Angelica wants to defeat Snape's fighter to call off this engagement. But the fighter is Geeth, and he's just way too strong for her. So if that's the case, Rick told her to leave it to him. But right there today's episode ends. And if you want to watch the next episode, then comment down in the comments section. Until then, take care.